Hello. Welcome. I am Sylvia Hayes, and you are watching Good News at Primetime. Today, we have a good show. We're going to be talking about parental responsibility because a lot of parents don't always know everything they are responsible for, and some of them being a little slack on it. But we're going to talk about parental responsibility today. And just to talk about other things, today is election day here in Georgia, and we have a lot of people who are going out to vote. As a matter of fact, they had a record number of people getting out to vote from what I hear, and that's a good thing. It is a good thing. People getting out and vote, speaking their piece, and letting people know, I want you to represent me. It is so good to get out there and vote, and I commend everybody who do, because I went out there the first week and voted. So I didn't have to stand in that line because I saw a line today. I saw a line. So I didn't have to stand in that line. I went out and voted early, and that was a good thing. It was something that was really troubling me today. As you know, Juneteenth is coming around the corner. And last year, the president made it a holiday, Juneteenth, celebrating the freedom of Black people in Texas. And what I saw today is somebody getting a patent on Juneteenth, the term Juneteenth. And it wasn't a Black person. And guess what? Walmart trying to sell Juneteenth ice cream. Walmart. I'm not against people profiting and stuff, but when you're gonna profit off of our problems, I won't say a problem, of our struggles, I have a problem with that. I really have a problem because Black people they waited a long time for them to get free. For one, people in Texas, they didn't get the news until 2 years later, Okay, so that's a celebration, a freedom celebration. And Walmart want to profit off of it? No, I have a problem with that because, earlier this month, I saw where the people in Arkansas, some white people in Arkansas want to profit off Juneteenth. It's like, whatever the Black person do, you got to make a profit off of it. We shoot them dead, take their property, make a profit off their struggles. I have a problem with that. So I just had to put it out there. Walmart well, you know what? So many people was complaining about it, so I think they took it all off the shelf. But they were trying to make a profit off of it. And that's not good. Celebrate some other way. Don't try to make a profit off our struggles. No, you already talk about, why don't you forget about it? You don't deserve reparation. So why you want to make a profit off of us? Why? That's my thing. Why? You always want to make a profit off us. It was free cotton. Free labor. Now take our patents and stuff. Now the freedom thing. Anyway, let's get back to our thing. Today we are talking about parental guidance, parental responsibilities. That is our topic today. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host to help us with that topic. And by the way, good news. This is Good News at Primetime. Let me get this book right. It's hard to do it on the calendar, on this thing. Good News at Primetime. Okay, not Good News at Primetime. They got me all messed up now. Power Thoughts. Empowering you to be successful in life. That's the book, and this is the best book ever for college graduates or high school graduate. It will enhance their lives so much. That is the perfect gift for them. So pick up yours at aliveandkickingproduction.com, where A&K productions.com. That's where you can go and get the book. AandKproductions.com. You pick up your book, give it to all the college graduates. Other people might need it as well. Okay. So until then, get the book. Okay. So do we have Reggie on the line?
Yes, can you guys hear me? Uh, yeah.
Hi, Reggie. How are you?
Doing great. There's a lot going on today.
Yes, it is. It is.
We're on a good matter to talk about parenting outcomes that we expect.
I can barely hear you.
Okay. Is that better?
Not yet. You're totally mute now.
Okay.
That I can hear you now.
Goody, goody, goody. That's good. These headsets.
It's the headset.
but but
Okay.
we think about the outcome that we expect as parents. A lot of young people are graduating, some not. But as parents, there's a certain amount of weight that we carry and responsibility when it comes down to raising our children, our expectations from our children. And there's a lot that we as parents have to do. I have to say, a moment of prayer for the the young people that were killed at the elementary school today. You
Yeah.
know, 14 and a teacher. So that does say something about the children and just people in general. Who's raising these young people and what's causing them to behave in such a way. But we're gonna be talking about parenting, and I'm pretty sure we'll bring that up. But how
Okay.
you doing?
I've been doing good. I have a fantastic weekend, so I'm doing good. Flying high. My grandbabies won both of their football games, and one of them got the
Uh,
championship. So I was proud of that because they were top team in their league. So they
wow.
got little
Okay. Okay.
trophies and stuff. So I was happy. I wore my proud grandmama shirt.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
around the board, we've got so much. Uh, I recently had a great nephew that graduated. I still have maybe 2 years before I have a grand that graduates. I think but they are graduating to the next grade. So I said a
Mhm.
shout out to Leah, Jason, uh, Olivia for coming up and being a part of the next thing because they graduate from one grade to the next grade. So we look forward to this time of year as a reflection of the progress of our young people.
Oh yeah, yeah. I need to give a shout out to man. I'm not gonna name any names because I'll
You
forget.
don't want to get in trouble.
It's so many of them though. Like
Mhm.
my niece got pinned up for the RN. My grandniece, great niece, she was salutatorian, however you pronounce it, for her class. So that
Wow.
made me proud. And I had a great nephew to graduate from college. I had another cousin to graduate from college. I got another cousin who's graduated from high school. I mean, they just going and going and going and make you feel old. When you're talking about a great niece, and great nephews, I mean,
Right.
they do make you sound like you got a couple of years on you, but it's all good.
It's good.
It's all good. It's better to be on this side of the earth. You
Yes.
know.
And it's good to have those years. We got wisdom. You got the book out. You got power thoughts. We got so many
Mhm.
things to be happy about. And I say this, uh, especially in today's society, you have a lot of accomplishments that young people are doing. And we do put the acknowledgement out saying congratulations, uh, and all those kudos and shout outs. But even for the ones that didn't exactly get the prize, didn't exactly get to where they wanted to be, there's still a lot of hope. There's still some opportunity. I just had another uh, uh, niece. I got to say a shout out to her. Ruchi just made. She's graduated and you know, got on the honor rolls and all those things. And then there's some that did not exactly make it. They got to go back to summer school. They missing some credits. It could be college. It could be high school. It could be even working on a PhD. You know, there's some more work that you got to do. And our big thing is don't give up.
Exactly.
Don't give up. Don't let nobody get you out of your zone, because good things come to those who prepare, and sometimes you gotta wait. So everything doesn't come at the same time. When you look back at your high school years, you say, well, some people might have been the best this, most likely to do that. And some people made those accomplishments 30, 40 years later, but some people didn't. Just because they picked you as a particular person in high school, junior high school, college, or whatever, that doesn't really define you.
Right.
You know, we just like flowers. We blossom at different times. You can have the same type flower. You know, one's gonna come up a little brighter, but when they come up, they still a good. You know, it's like a dozen roses. They still bloom and they still shine. So to every young person out there, you still shine. So continue shining.
Yeah, and even if you don't meet your personal expectations of yourself, you're still shining for your parents, because I always tell them you are your parents' bragging rights. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
give them something to talk about. You know,
yes.
she
Well,
didn't
even
huh?
if your parents are not as receptive when it comes down to giving you acknowledgments and things of that nature, believe it or not, there are some kids that are in successful households, two-parent households, and they might feel that they hadn't accomplished something because they're not the person with the A+ average, you know, or you didn't get a scholarship. But when you think about it, these are the greatest times for all of us. So if you didn't get what you thought you was gonna get, guess what? You got an opportunity, and welcome to life.
But then if you made a progress, that would be good to celebrate too, because there are some people who be making D's, and if you make a C or C+, that's progress right there. That's something to celebrate. You you
Oh
you
yes,
did
yes,
you did succeed in getting a little better. You know,
right.
so all progress count. Yeah. So let's talk about parenting and their responsibility. You know, a lot of
Okay,
times, people think when their kids get 18, that's done. You know, they don't think about the responsibility from conception until they pass away. They don't
right.
think about that, because like when a child is concepted, when there is conception there, I mean the mom have to eat right, keep her mental stability in order, and all of that kind of stuff for the baby, because that baby gonna go through all of that stuff that you're going through. And then when the baby's born, you got to give it love and treat it right, and teach it responsibilities, everything, because that's it. Because when the baby's first born, that's when they learn to trust you. When they cry and you come in to get them and hold them, they feel comfortable with it. So it's important to know that your child is learning from day one,
Mm.
from you. And even at 2 years old, they learning. They're learning the words you're saying, because a lot of times they're gonna repeat it. Because I've seen time when a child went to kindergarten, cussing up a storm, you know, and guess where he got it from? The parent,
Right,
So
mommy and daddy.
yes,
Well,
and so
well,
yeah, you got to know that your children are emulating you. Everything you do, they're copying, and they're gonna be doing the same thing that you did.
yeah.
So you got
What they
to,
say, they're not
huh?
gonna do what you say do all the time, but they will do what they see you do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they will. So you got to be conscious of that because it is your responsibility to teach them to know there's a time for everything. As a kid, you don't need to be having a foul mouth. So therefore, you don't use a foul mouth around your kids. You don't do foul things around your kids because they're going to see that and they're going to think it's okay. Oh, mommy did this, so I'm going to do that too. Or daddy did this, I'm going to do that too. That's where some kids get the drinking from because they see their
Mm,
parents do it and they sneak and do it too. Now, go get one of their cigarettes, go to the back of the house or somewhere and smoke it because they see the parents doing it you
mm,
know, and they steal the alcohol. You have a whole bunch of alcohol and they see you drinking all the time, they're gonna want to see what it's about too.
right,
So, do treat your children the way you want them to grow up. Do the
right.
things you want them to do the things around them that you want them to do, you know, and that's a lot, even in treating your friends with respect, and
Mm-hmm.
not bullying because some parents are bullies and they cuss out people and all that kind of stuff.
Oh
And when a
yeah,
kid go to school and they do the same thing, where did they get that from? My child don't do that.
right,
Well, look what you do. You know,
right.
they're gonna be doing what you do. So
Well, children can help you become a better person. I
mm-hmm,
always remember growing up, my younger brother, uh, when those advertisements first came out about stop smoking,
uh-huh,
uh, he would talk to my mom, and we weren't thinking about it, but he was thinking about it, and
mm-hmm.
he kept saying, he he helped her to stop smoking. She
Oh, did
she
he?
stopped smoking, because he said if you want to be around when I graduate, you need to stop smoking. Now I could not have told my mom that. I didn't think about that, but he did. And I always think about my son. Uh, I would go pick him up sometimes, and I would have while I'm waiting on the parking lot, I might drink a beer. Well, he came out. I think Chris was like second, third grade. He says, "Not good to drink and drive." And believe it or not, I stopped that. I didn't have out, beer or nothing in the car, while he was in the car, you know. So young people can change. Anybody can change by their kids. If you curse too much, a kid
Mhm.
goes to school and says, "Mommy, Daddy," they say those are bad words that you're saying. And a good parent will make the adjustment. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
so it's so critical that and important how we look at our children, even as a grandparent, your behavior, the things that you did uh, with your you know biological first children. You end up, because grandparents become better parents to their grandkids. Most people, they
Exactly.
love their grandparents. Some, they still got love, but a lot of people love their grandparents a lot more than they do their parents sometimes, because you
Yeah.
know, because they've had enough time to grow through the process of child rearing. So
Right.
there are some benefits when you can, even as an uncle, or a great uncle, or someone that brings wisdom to the situation. And young people, uh, whether small, even as they grow older, in a good intact family, it helps them to be something. My aunts, when I was growing up, I didn't want to let people down in the family because they had put so much into me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They prayed over me. They uh, did all the things they could possibly do to ensure that I had a fruitful, childhood. Didn't get everything you wanted to get, but part of parenting, and in that particular time frame, that's when the village raise the children too, because my
Yeah.
mother would be working, and my grandmother, my aunt would be there, my granddad, and they filled any void. So it was like I never missed anything. So it's important that you will grow up once you start having children, you
Yeah.
know, and you identify the responsibilities as an adult. I think that's important. Believe it or not, I've seen young people. Recently, I just saw a young lady. She looked like she was about 19, 20 years old, had 2 kids, but
Mm.
she had them under control. Even though she was taking public transportation, her kids were different than some adults, young adults. You could tell that she had taken the time to teach them certain things,
Uh-huh.
especially in a COVID type environment. Don't touch everything. If you got to teach your kids in public, you're going to have some problems. If you got to teach your kids how to behave when they go in a grocery store, the mall, you're going to have some problems. My parents, typically, I knew what not to do when I went out. Don't touch
Mm.
nothing. How they say, don't touch it, don't bottle it, don't look at it. They weren't that hard, but I didn't go around taking candy, eating in the store,
Oh
because
no.
then somebody said you're stealing the candy. But today you see certain things like that happen. But parenting is a whole big thing.
Yeah.
We don't come with it doesn't come with books. They got Dr. Seuss and all them, but parenting is passed down from generation to generation. And sometimes when you got gaps, someone not filling the void, you can tell it. You can tell it in a child when certain things are missing in their house. Nobody's telling them right from wrong. And you can trace that back to parenting.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as the book, I tell people all the time they didn't write a book on how to raise Johnny. Parenting is a trial and error thing. And then when you
Mm-hmm.
become a grandparent, you have the answers and you can pass it on down to your kids. So they and help them to raise theirs. And that's why grandparents' roles are so important in raising their kids, because sometimes the parents, they don't know everything, but they be trying their best, and the grandparents have to step in. No, baby, you don't do it like this. Remember when you were little, so they
Mm-hmm.
always bring that one up. I did this for you. I did that. And parents now, a lot of them, they want to give their kids what they didn't get.
Ooh,
And
yes.
so that's not exactly a good thing either. 'Cause especially when if you're gonna struggle to get it,
Mm-hmm.
because like if you're gonna buy a 6 year old $100 pair of shoes, to me that's really, really unreasonable. I ain't gonna say
Well,
stupid, but
mm-hmm.
for them to wear those shoes for 3 months or something like that, and you pay that kind of money, that's not a
Well,
good thing to do. Nice, get some nice shoes, yes, but
well,
something that you're not
well
gonna waste your.
uh, I, I'll say this now: if you can afford it, believe it or not, there are some people. If you can afford, but you got to give them some lessons. You don't want to create an arrogant child, who
Mhm.
is already caught up in labels and designer this and designer that. It, it's good to have young people become young people. One of the things that I see when they do these charter schools and everybody kind of dresses alike, the white shirts, the khaki pants. Well, that
Uh-huh.
now in the long scope of things, that takes creativity out of things. But the early years, now when young people get to be teenagers, they want to be different. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you in the kindergarten, you run around with some high profile shoes, a necklace. There was a lady, she put tattoos all, even though they were removable tattoos. She put tattoos on a little 5-year old, tattooed him up,
Uh-huh.
um, and had him looking like a little rapper. Well, I this is me personally. I believe that those early years should be focused on training, rearing, and educating that young person. Now, if you do that properly, by the time they reach their teenage years, uh, they are more likely they'll still do teenage stuff, okay, but at
Yeah.
least they have some type of grounding. And I know sometimes people say, "Well, I don't want to do that. My folk were controlling." But I think I'm old school. I think some form of discipline, some things that are expected, you know, uh, should be moved down the line. For instance, uh, some people, their kids, they say, "Well, uh, and it's just me. Uh, you know, little Johnny wants to play with baby dolls and he likes to wear pink. And I might not be the grandparent that would get into that. You know what I'm saying? But I might not have to worry about it because of what I taught my son. You see?
Yeah.
And even though it becomes a fad to do certain things, I believe if you raise your kids in a certain, it might be considered old fashioned or conservative, but I believe that any core values that you teach them would be, you know, beneficial in the long run, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
and even in the teenage years, because there's some parents that say, well, uh, I get high with my teenagers when they was 16 or well, whatever the drinking age. I took them to the first bar, and I can see that. But if you're drinking with your kids, they 12, 13 years old, you say, "Hey, boy, get you something, get you something." It's gonna put some hair on your chest. You know that might not be good because I see a lot of young people that say, "I started smoking when I was 9 to 10 years old.
Yeah.
I got my first drink, and this was happening when I was growing up. Now I didn't take my first drink until I was 18.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think it was after that I smoked a cigarette. Well, by that time, my body had grown up a little bit. I knew I didn't like the taste of cigarettes. I really didn't like the taste of beer, even though we acquired a taste later. But
Yeah.
I didn't have all that in me, and that helps uh, to not have certain health conditions down the road or dependency problems. So parenting responsibilities start, all the way from the thinking about conception throughout the whole process. And even after they turn 18, we still parent.
Yep. Yep. We are from all the way up. But yeah, even when as kids, you got to teach them different responsibilities. Life skills. You got to teach a kid life skills. And some parents they let the kid just they feed them, and that's it. But you got to do more than just feed your kids and put a roof over their head. I mean, you got to
Right,
teach them the life skills. You got to teach them morals and values, teach them responsibilities. All of that goes into parenting. And you can't just depend on the school to teach them everything in school, math and everything, because sometimes they don't get everything at school, and you got to come home and help them out a little bit. So helping them with homework, that's part of a parent's responsibility.
oh yes,
Because sometimes a parent might have more patience than the teacher. The teacher might not have time. If the parent know how to do something, they can teach them. And, do a little bit on the side. Because like for me, Black History Month, I know they weren't teaching a whole lot in school. But I was
right.
teaching my kids, and it's important that they know their history. For my kids to know their Black history, it was important for them to know that. So I was teaching it to them. I would take them on field trips. We would go on a field trip to the farmers market,
Mm,
just to learn stuff and sample different foods and all that kind of stuff. We did field trips, and even I would take them to the museum and things like that. I'm constantly educating them, constantly. I would have spelling bees at home. I would write
Okay.
out a list of words and have spelling bees, with my kids, teaching them how to spell. So
Hmm.
it's a constant learning because you want your kids to be the best. You want them to learn and learn and learn because the teachers don't do everything. Some teachers
Right.
are there just there for a paycheck, you know, and you want your kids to learn, so you got to put everything in them.
Right.
Even learning your family history.
Mm.
Who's your mom, who's your grandmama, where do they live, and all of that kind of stuff. Where your grandpa at? Where's your uncle? And you know, some
Right.
people don't even know who their fathers are. You know,
Yeah.
there are a
Yeah.
lot of kids, and I
Well.
found that to be heartbreaking for a child to say, "I don't know who my daddy is." You
Right.
know, and they need to know that even
Uh,
for medical reasons,
well,
because they might get sick and might need a blood transfusion or a
or
kidney,
something.
or
Right.
or just knowing the history themselves, so they'll know what to look for. So,
And you just said something. I remember coming up, and I used to call them RMFs. RMF stood for Ready Made Family. When I was like
mm,
22, 23 years old, I meet ladies, and you know, the little kids sometimes would call you daddy. Well, I ended up raising a stepson. But back then, I wasn't just hopping in situations, and you with a lady for about 3 months, and all the kids running around calling you dad. Well,
yeah.
that can cause problems down the road. Well, thinking ahead of time, when parents talk to their kids, you talk to your sons, your daughter, you might start asking them when they get you talk to them throughout life, but especially you say, well, you're serious about girls, you're serious about boys. You let them know about what we call the birds and the bees. And, some people say, well, ladies will have a conversation. Don't bring no babies back here, but you go into details about certain things so they'll know. But I found families that broke it down to say, well, uh, made this, like you might say, well, we drummers or whatever your name is. And when we bring life into the world, we ready to bring life into the world. Okay. And those
Mm-hmm.
kids have, they still might make some boo-boos and whatever, but they at least know the consequences of having early sex. Well, some families don't do that. And the young people find out later, you know, and when they find out later, they find out from their peers. Other people are telling them things. I was looking at a situation where a young lady, she was like 24 years old, still a virgin. And this young man, he was in his 20s and still a virgin. Well, that's because the family had taught those values about, however you look at them, they were considered, maybe nerds or some, but they went through school just like regular kids, except they abstain from sex. Well, now I don't know what where they at now, but what I'm saying, by preparing them, whenever they were getting ready to engage in sexual activities, they knew the consequences. See, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, if you're not explaining to young people at different stages of your life, even in school, what uh, early sexual encounters can have, whether it be diseases, whether it be an actual birth. Uh, you can't put the genie back in the bottle once it's out, you
Right.
know. And once you become a pickle, what I heard a thing. They said once you become a pickle, you are no longer a cucumber.
Mm.
And that means that once you experience some things that adults experience, you are no longer innocent. Whether it be drinking prematurely, uh, drugs, all those things. And that comes from parenting. You put those parental skills in place. and the people that prepare. Now your kids still got to go through this society,
Yeah.
but at least you know that you have equipped your children or your offspring with the necessary equipment for to be going through education, such education, sexual, drugs. You talk to them about all of that, and you let them know the pros and the cons. Because sometimes, just say if you said it was all bad, and that's all you said, what happens if you just hammer your kids and you tell them all the bad stuff? They usually become the kids that do everything you said not to do
Yeah.
because you glorified it without going. But if you do some balance, you say, well, oh, uh, this is the consequences of early drinking. Okay, your body has not developed. You can have problems, or you can get attached to alcohol, and that could hurt your life down the road. If you have early sex, not to just say sex is bad and God's gonna do this to you. Once kids find out they done had some sex and God ain't do nothing to them, what you think they gonna keep doing? They gonna keep having sex. So you
Yeah.
can't do those type things. You gotta let them know for every action there's a reaction and the
Yeah.
consequences for doing certain things. And I think now with young people, especially, we can't just say what you can't do. We have to come with some type of explanation. And then that way, when they get amongst their peers, they can say, not because my mama or my daddy said don't do it. Like the young person that was in their 20s when they were still virgins, they could actually stand on the fact. They say, the only reason I'm not engaged in sexual activities, I don't want to give my body away at an early age, and that's what they stood on, and people had to value and respect that.
Yeah.
Even but that's goes parenting.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes people there's that peer pressure to cause you to do things that you don't want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that the parents have to, talk to the kids about is that peer pressure. No, it's okay to say no. It's okay to turn away and walk away from, something that's going wrong. You don't have to just stay
Uh,
there just to be friends. You don't have to do the things that your friends doing, to be
mm-hmm.
accepted. Because if, for instance, like you and your friend, the friends, they go to the store, and then somebody want to do some shoplifting. You're not into shoplifting, so because they're your friends, you might stay there. But you have to instill in your child when they're doing something wrong, it's okay to walk away, and not
Mm-hmm.
do it. Because some people say, that's my friend, I don't want to be, separated, I don't want to stand out. Because some people they thrive on being accepted, so you don't want your child to thrive on being
Right.
accepted. It's
Well,
okay to be separated, different, and stand out. Because if they get caught shoplifting,
and,
everybody gonna go to jail. But if you step away, you won't be going to jail. So you got to make wise decisions too. So we got to teach our children to
yeah,
make wise decisions and do the right thing when they're not in our presence. Because people will pressure you into doing stuff. Even boys will pressure you into sex, and you don't want
right.
to. You
And
know, so you got to stand up. Got to talk to them about being strong. Yeah, and
and
and, and you got something you were going to say on that one?
oh yeah, and, and you have to teach core values. There was a comment where I think one of the people in the chat said that she saw a grandmother uh, taking her does without things. When you take young people to things early and expose them to things becoming indoctrinated into the proper ways of doing things, they'll ask these things. Uh, Case in point, there was a probably anywhere between 8 and 9 years old. You can't make this up. they had a petition against Justin Bieber, and they had over 200 names on it. Now, at first, it didn't hit me what they were doing, but their parents were showing them how to address a problem. Okay, they were going around
Mm-hmm.
getting names to something. They were to get Justin Bieber removed from something. I don't know what it was, but that's showing organization skills. You know, rather than getting into a big battle or argument, they were being taught how to diplomatically get things going. And if you're doing that at 8, 9 years old, you organize, you thinking, you using this brain for something else. You become more involved in your family, you become more involved in your community, and you become a better person. One of the things, and this is an African culture, uh, things that got lost, especially black and brown people here in America, was traditions. The tradition of the family. And we get, but it's eroded over the last couple of years because you don't have a traditional grandmother, big mama, those type functional people. Because everybody say, you know what, I'm tired of kids. I want to be me. I want to be free. You don't have to call me auntie. Call me Betty. You don't have to call me uncle. Call me Drum. You know, and I become one of the boys with the kids. So there's no definitive distance between young people and old people. So that's why you have a lot of young people might curse or say something vulgar in front of older people. Where in my generation, that was a defined thing of titles. You know, grandmama,
Mm-hmm.
granddaddy, daddy, mama, auntie, uh, even a lady down the road, Mrs. So and so, Mr. So and so. When you remove those titles from the equation, everybody becomes just a regular somebody. Dr. So and so, officer this and that, Mrs. So and so or Mr. So and so, that's the teacher. You know, I've been in schools where young people were calling that teacher by the first name.
Yeah. Well, we did that in college for some of the teachers, because that's what they said, RB, But then we still had doctor this and doctor that, you know. But there are a couple of them,
Mm-hmm.
they're by their first name. But high
Yeah,
school,
but at least that was
elementary,
in
huh?
at
But
least
high
that was
school,
in college. But I'm
yeah.
talking about when you don't have that in early years. The young people grow up not respecting positions, and then that puts them in a position where they don't respect authority. You know, because there's no defined roles, uh, and that can cause a problem in situations where people say, well, instead of calling me mom, call me Debbie. We just like
Nah,
sister. You gotta, you know,
nah.
I mean, that can cause a problem down the road.
Yeah, and see, that's one of the parents' responsibility to teach morals and respect. No, you don't. You don't say Debbie. You say mom or auntie. You don't. Yes, might not have to say yes, ma'am, but yes, not yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Yes or yes, ma'am. No, no, sir. But not yelling. No, you got to teach that respect. So even like my grandson went with me to work last week, and
Mm-hmm.
I introduced him to one of the minister. He was a minister. Actually, that was a shoot I did this weekend. And so
Okay.
whenever I left, he told my grandson his name, and he said, "Call me Muster, so to make your grandmama happy." you know, to make your grandmama happy, call me Muster.
Mm.
So but then too, I teach them yes sir, no sir, Muster and Miss. Because these people, they're mother's age, grandmother age. You got to respect, and I teach
Right.
them respect. You don't go say RB. No, it's Muster RB. Yes
Mm-hmm.
sir. You know, That's one of the parents you got to teach their kids, because having that respect for older people and people in people in authority, that will put you higher on the platform. Oh, he's respectful, so I think I'm gonna give him a job. He's respectful. I'll accept him dating my daughter. You
Mm-hmm.
know, So he's respectful. He needs money for school. I think I'm gonna do that. Give him
Yeah.
something. So
Well,
it helps to have that respect
yeah.
and to recognize authority. And you got to teach your kids that, because nobody want to be around kids. Hey, Joanne. No, don't call me Joanne. I'm Miss Joanne or Miss Smith. You
Yeah.
know? No, because it
Well,
turns older people off.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
unmanageable young people. No one really cares for unmanageable young people.
Uh,
Even when they get out of hand. For instance, when you see a young baby 3 years old hit their mama,
mm,
now that's a major pet peeve. And you see some young people, oh, isn't that cute? I'm finna put it on YouTube. My baby slapping the hell out of me. I'm not gonna do that.
nope.
You
I'm
know,
gonna
and
snap
and,
them
and
back.
see, so certain things have to stay in place. Yeah, you don't have to whoop and beat your kids, but you shouldn't have a baby hitting you. I mean, that baby should, once that baby, I am not saying you got to abuse that baby, but if that baby learns that it is not supposed to hit older people, you won't have a problem with that baby 20 years down the road. At
Mm-mm.
least in that particular area. Now, I'm not saying you got to beat the child and beat it out of them, but they see that behavior and they start to imitate it. But you can nip it in the bud. Even when you see young babies, it was a lady, she had the little baby out there twerking. Now, that is not something to be enjoyed, you know.
Uh-uh. And
So,
I've seen a child twerking too, and everybody thought it was so cute, and I thought it was so disrespectful. For that child to be up there doing that, and they thought it was so cute. It's like, no, you don't let your child do that. That is an adult dance. You don't do that. So you got to teach your children to respect, and there are certain things that children just don't do, and twerking is one of them. You don't do
but
that.
but
No.
but sometimes people might think it's cute uh to do these things, and they see nothing wrong with it. But you know
Child got to
that's
be in a child's place. They
yeah,
don't
that's a
they don't
reflection
act
on the
like
family.
adults.
Yeah, that's a reflection on the family. And all that goes back to parents and their responsibility. Even when you look at we talking about whether it be sexual behavior, uh how you interact and handle problems. If you are in a situation and your children see that you handle stuff in a violent manner, when I was raising my son, we didn't fuss and fight in front of him.
Right.
Okay. So that
Right.
created an environment where we work, even like today, my son will work stuff out verbally. He's thinking, you know, and even in his disciplinary practices with his children, he's not like, abusive thing, hitting them. If yeah, sometimes you got to break the belt out or whatever.
Yeah.
Corporal punishment is needed, but you shouldn't have to abuse them. And I think when you set these things up, and it goes back to before conception. If you are, if you know enough about sex, when you have sex, there's a possibility that you're going to have kids. Now, if you go in knowing this, when you have kids and you talk and you discuss, you say, well, hey, Becky, it's a possibility that even though we're going to the prom and we're going to have sex, there's a chance we're going to have a baby.
Yeah.
And then you know that and you address that. And that's a good question. I think it's good for children to volunteer, to learn to serve and have compassion. When you expose your children to things like that, even if they got means, whether it be money or whatever, that was one of the things the Kennedys would do to develop some type of humility amongst and compassion amongst their children because they were well off. They let them do volunteer work. Matter of fact, they started the Peace Corps from doing that to be around other people that didn't have, and those kids developed a compassion for other people. So yeah, it's critical that we do stuff like that. When you get and build better relationship between family members, especially if you thought about it early, you start to really care about how your child is going to be in this world. Because if you under-equip your child, they're going to have some major problems down the road. It's going to be difficult for them in relationship. It's going to be difficult for them in society. I forgot who wrote it all, but these kids are going to be problem kids. They're going to either be in the penitentiary or in an early grade.
Yeah, so we have to teach our kids, to be responsible. Teach them life skills too. Teach them how to cook, how to iron their clothes, how to wash their clothes, how to go to the grocery store, how to pay their bills on time. All of those things. There are kids who don't know how to write a check. Of course, check writing is just about out anyway. But, there are still money orders. You might have to write a money order. You got to teach your kid those things, basic life skills, how to go pay your gas bill.
You got to balance Cash App and Venmo. Yeah. It's the same stuff. It might be digital, but you're going to have to know how to do those things in order to survive.
Yeah. And to me, you can't just totally depend on a machine. Because I've seen times you go in a store and the power go out. And these people, they can't even, they might say, okay, this costs this much. And then they depend on the cash register to tell them how much money to give back. Right. It's like, no, okay, it's $7.95, okay, or we'll say $7.62. Okay, start counting. 63, 64, 65.
They'll be there all day.
5. Huh?
They'll be there all day. One of the things that certain places, and I see it at Quick Trip and Chick-fil-A, they spend a lot of time teaching you how to count back money. Okay? See, a lot of those skill sets, and again, that should be within the family. If they're not teaching it at the school level, parents need to teach their kids because they will be under-equipped and they won't have any meaningful position in life. They might catch up later, but they're going to be put in a position where they're going to be miserable. They're not going to be able to be in regular relationships with other human beings. They become reckless. These are the people that will end up with a lot of babies out there, and then they're going to develop into the same type person. So we have to, as parents, we can start now. You have to put it out there. Better ways to educate and train. I'm pretty sure the parents of the young man that shot up the school today wish they had a better conversation with him.
Yeah, not only that, you got to teach your kids responsibility. You don't just go out and shoot guns. You got to have a relationship with your child too. Now, if you have a relationship with your child and your child's supposed to come and tell you when something is bothering them, then you'll be up and up on that. You don't just let your kid go to school and you don't say, how was your day? Is everything going okay? You got to be involved in their lives. Yeah. You can't just feed them. You can't just feed the kids.
You can't birth them and just feed. You have like a litter of kids and you don't pay attention to their individual needs. All that should be done at the house. Yeah, you got the educational system, you got life, but your child shouldn't have to bump their head every day in life if you do the right thing on parental
Right.
skills.
They shouldn't. Even if something's going wrong with the teacher, the child should be able to go home and tell my Mr. So and so did this, and it's not making me feel good or whatever. Let the
Mm-hmm.
parents address that. And that shooting at school, that's something the parents should have addressed. No, not the child. The
Right,
child didn't. They don't think. No, kids, they think about today. They don't think what's going to happen tomorrow. They don't think
right,
about how their actions going to affect everybody else. All
right,
the thing they're thinking about how I'm feeling right now, what I'm going to do. No, you take that stuff to your parents and let them help you figure this out. And parents supposed to be involved in their kids' lives. They supposed to go to school. They supposed to know what their friends are like.
right.
When my
Ooh,
kids have
yeah.
friends, I know their parents. Who's your parents? Where you live at? I know. So
Well,
the parents, they should know.
well, all of those are good traits of parental responsibility. They put parental labels on music, movies, and things like that. And even though children don't come with instructions, it's the responsibility for anyone that creates a child to make sure that child grows up to be a better person, and that takes some work. Uh, you can't get frustrated. And some parents, even we talking about children that come out normal. Just imagine when kids come out with some type of disability type ailment, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
autism, sickle cell, things of that nature, where it's going to be a long term thing. Okay, yeah, it's a long term thing raising a child
Yep.
without any problems. Just imagine if you got some problems that come from birth. You really have to become more of a responsible parent.
Yeah, yeah, you do, and it's not just to the 18. You're gonna always be a parent. Once you're a parent, you're gonna always be a parent.
Yeah,
Because when your child have a child, you're gonna be right there helping them out. Guiding them, telling them you don't do this or you do this for your baby. You know, you're gonna always be a parent. Even you're gonna be coaching your children in their relationships with their spouses. No, you don't do your husband like this. You need to do this or you need to do that or whatever.
yeah,
Stop doing this or whatever. There's gonna be, you know, coaching all through life. It's just gonna be coaching. It's so much.
oh
It
yeah,
is so much. And like I said, teaching responsibility, teaching life skills, teaching moral values, teaching them when to say yes and no and not to hold grudges. I mean, even just teaching them how to be a friend, and not to pout all the time. Teaching them that you can't have everything your way all the time. You got to give way to somebody else because it's not all about you. It's a collective thing. You might have it one way today. Tomorrow's somebody else's turn. Everything can't be your way all the time. There's a lot of give and take, a lot of sharing. You know, share. Because somebody might not have anything. You share with them. Be compassionate. You got to teach your children to be compassionate. Got to teach your kids to go for it. Don't just live from day to day. Have goals. Teach your kids to have goals. It's a lot to parenting. This is the most
ooh,
serious job God has gave us. You know,
ooh,
He
yes,
has commissioned us to do this. It is our responsibility to take care of His product. He put it in
ooh,
our hands. So
yes,
God is looking at us to do it. And we got to do it right. We have to do it right. And a lot of people, they don't want to do it. You know, a lot of to put the kids in the house. I'll be back. Go out partying or whatever. Kids at home doing whatever. Apartment might catch on fire while you out partying.
right.
That's not good. So you got to be a responsible parent. It got you got to. And a lot of times, I know like Children's Day is coming up. Children's Day is coming up second Sunday in June. And they say, I give to my children all the time. Yeah, you do. But that doesn't mean that you can't specify this day. Say, this is a special day for you. I'm going to celebrate you. Because children need to know that they feel special. They don't need to know that they don't need to feel like they are a burden. Okay? They don't need to feel that way at all. No, they need to know that they are loved, they are special, and mommy loves me, daddy loves me, and that's going to make them fly and flourish, because they know that they are loved. They know they're being backed by someone who loved them. Okay. So our time is up. It is 9:03 now. So, know that parenting is not easy, because I know myself. I said, Lord, I didn't ask for this. It's going to get hard, but you can't give up. You can't give up. God didn't give up on you. You don't give up on your children. You might have to stop and rest. You might have to ask for help, but don't give up on your children. Do your best, because it is your job to make them a decent member of the society. Because you can't just say, kids, sometimes they get into games and stuff because they don't feel love. You got to give them that love. Let them know that you love them. So until next week, take care of your children, love them to death, and we're going to see you on the next go-round. Y'all have a good one.